Hi everyone, welcome back to the MKPUGM YouTube channel. My name is Trixi Karinina Dewi Sindhutomo, and here I'll present to you my undergraduate thesis entitled National Social Housing Policy for the Indonesian Middle Class Policy Learning from the Netherlands. The starting point of my research was a growing concern in Indonesia that the middle class cannot afford housing. In Indonesia, housing supply is dominated by the private sector, while social housing targets only the low-income people. This leaves the middle class vulnerable, and according to BPS, the middle class declined by 9.5 million between 2019 until 2024. This data showing the urgency for the government intervention for the middle class needs. Thus, even though I'm aware that lower income household housing issues in Indonesia still remain a critical problem, I found that there are research gaps specific on the middle class housing needs. Then, I started to wonder, instead of working from a scratch, why didn't we take a look and learn from the other country that has more inclusive social housing? And that's why I chose the Netherlands. The reason was the Netherlands has a long history since the Housing Act of 1901. They also have one of the largest social housing sectors in Europe and policies that include both low and middle income. Therefore, this makes it a strong case for Indonesia. From that background, this research addressed two main research questions. The first one is, how do the national social housing policy in the Netherlands address the housing needs of the middle class? And what are the policy learning that can be drawn from the Netherlands social housing to improve Indonesia's social housing policy for the middle class? To answer the research question, I directly use the policy learning framework from Wilson 2019 that it has three stages of policy learning, which are acquisition, translation, and dissemination. This framework helps me to understand how policies can be adapted across different contexts. This research used an inductive qualitative research, and for the primary data, I conducted 4 interviews with one Dutch Housing Association representative, one Dutch academic expert, and 2 representatives from the Ministry of PUPR. For the secondary data, I analyzed the Netherlands' 5 special planning documents and the Indonesia Housing Strategic Plan. The process was challenging, especially gaining the access to the interviews, but these sources gave me both perspective, the Netherlands' best practice, and also the Indonesian policy. Now we jump into the result and discussion. Historically, the Netherlands shaped social housing through 3 milestones among 5 spatial planning turning points. The first one is the 1901 Housing Act, which institutionalizing the housing institution through the housing associations. And then there is also the post-war welfare expansions and the VNEX policy that introducing large-scale socially mixed housing, which targeted the construction of 800,000 new homes between 1955 until 2015. These stages also show how the Netherlands evolved from state-led to welfare to decentralized governance, but with housing always central to social policy. Today, the Netherlands have policy for the social housing, including the first one, access for low and middle income groups, and then the 40-40-20 inclusionary zoning, high quality standards, strong tenant protection and monitoring system, social mixed housing design, and decentralized implementation with place-based approach. Then I apply the policy learning framework from the Wilson. I have the analysis that the first one in the acquisition step, I found key practices from the Netherlands, which are the inclusionary zoning with 40-40-20 rules. And then they also have the monitoring and stigma-free design for the social housing. Then the second step of the policy learning is the translation stage, which examines whether and how these ideas can adapted in Indonesia. One of my Indonesian interviews stated that the government is currently preparing a regulation related to the middle class housing needs. This shows positive momentum regarding this initiative. However, adaptation must consider Indonesia's context. The first one is culturally, Indonesians still prefer horizontal housing and land outside major cities remain available. Legally, there are constraints for the developing and managing vertical housing. And then socially, from the 18 Matters debate in 2025 regarding the housing design demonstrate that the middle class, they not only demand the availability of social housing, but they also demand the quality of it. And what are the design that give them space and also dignity as a human to live there. Therefore, policies can be copied directly. They need contextual adjustment. Lastly, for the third step, which is the policy learning dissemination, I found that Indonesia faces institutional barriers. Decentralization in Indonesia has created legal ambiguities and weak local capacity, making them disconnected to collaborate in order to create a massive social housing just like in the Netherlands. While the Netherlands, they have more stable institutions from the housing association that have local freedom within the national inclusionary standard. Therefore, Indonesia must clarify the legal and financial authority and strengthen institutional capacity through a specialized body, just like the housing associations in the Netherlands. Furthermore, from the perspective of political dimensions and social forces of policy learning, the Netherlands case of social housing shows how strong left-wing ideologies support the rise of social housing, while in Indonesia, social housing relies less on the political party and more on the public demand or grassroots pressures. And then, to summarize the key lessons for Indonesian middle class, I found that we can adopt the inclusionary zoning 40% for the lower income, 40% for the middle income, and 20% left for the market rate. To promote social mixed housing, prevent segregation, and strengthen government authority. And then the second, we can develop horizontal housing as a quick solution and plan the vertical housing for the future plan. Then we can also strengthen monitoring data system through integrated national platforms, empower land governments, and ensure stigma-free design for the social housing so that we can attract the middle class to use social housing in Indonesia. In conclusion, the Netherlands proves that social housing serves not only for the lower income but also the middle class, especially when they are vulnerable. The real challenge lies in the institutional reforms and grassroots pressures from the Indonesian middle class to make these lessons workable. Lastly, my recommendation for the future research is to include pentaholic stakeholder perspective and using ethnographic or socioeconomic studies to deeply understand the needs of the middle class itself. Thank you, that's all from me. Hope you enjoy it. Bye-bye.